Live. And we are live. What's going on, Angelo? Welcome back, everybody, to the Polar Bears in Flip Flops podcast. Here we do every Thursday, although we've been taking a few weeks off. But so every once in a while, we get together, we catch up, Angelo and I, and we talk about marine science policy and marine conservation in general. Having some technical issues on my end. I apologize. Normally we start at 5. We're about 20 minutes late. I've been having some problems with my setup, but hopefully this will do for now, and we get the content out and we get to chat. So, Angelo, first, before we even start, how are things going? We haven't seen you in a while. 3 weeks? 3 weeks, I think it's been?
Yeah, we missed a couple of weeks, and then we missed a couple of weeks before that. But I'm
Yes.
reminded of the game of baseball. So if in the game of baseball, if you get on base 3 out of 10 times, you actually go to the Hall of Fame as one of the greatest players of
Mm.
all time. So, we're not doing if we use baseball comparisons, we're actually doing
Yeah.
pretty good. I think feel like all New Year's resolutions do this. January, you come out the gate. You're good. You're consistent. You're
Yep.
strong. You're committed.
Yep.
February, still kind of there. But then like March and April roll along and it's like,
Just kind of fall off.
I got this. I got this thing. I'm going to go do something else instead of this thing that I committed to do once a week
Yeah.
for 30
Yeah.
minutes. Um, and I feel like that's kind of some of the stuff that's happened. But you know what? Some of the reasons it's been a busy news month. Like there's a lot has happened
A lot
in my
has
career. Right?
happened. Yeah. Tell us. Tell
Uh,
us. Ed.
well, for me, I work on ocean issues in Washington D.C. And the last time we talked about the God Squad, and
Yes.
we knew that the God Squad was going to be meeting, and that they were going to be making some decisions about whales in the Gulf of Mexico. And lo and behold, all of that happened. Some
Pretty.
deep sea mining news. I spend a lot of my time thinking about deep sea mining. The Trump administration released their budgets. All the agencies released their proposed budgets, and as a part of their budget, there's information that says that they plan on having lease sales for the areas that they're looking at for deep sea mining in America and Samoa and the Marianas later this fall. So that was very exciting, and there's been a lot of discussions and media attention, and I'm planning a couple of deep sea mining symposiums
Mm-hmm.
to discuss these issues and continue to bring attention to it. I'm an organizer, one of the organizers of the Upwell Conference, and we have a panel at that conference on June 2nd. And then we actually first met in person, the International Marine Conservation Congress. I submitted, along with National Ocean Protection Coalition and Andrew Thaler, our good friend Andrew
Yep.
Thaler, submitted for a what do they call symposium, an open symposium on deep sea mining, and that was accepted. And we've got a couple of months to pull that together. But I was, writing a blog about talking to the coalitions about it because we've got 15 days left to submit abstracts to be a speaker at
Yes.
that symposium.
Yes.
It's all organized by the conference, and like the way the conferences work is, there's different symposia, there's different rooms where certain topics are issued or discussed, and the scientists from all around the world submit their abstracts. And then the other scientists that are going to the conference look at the abstracts and they determine whether or not they have scientific merit. And then people are invited to participate in symposia, or to give a poster session or to give a speed talk. And so that's the kind of thing that's going to happen in the next couple of months. But the thing that's really taken up a lot of my time has been typhoons. And
Yeah.
my home island was hit by a Category 5 typhoon, and they don't really use the category system out there. They
Okay.
they, they just say like it's a tropical storm, it's a
Or type.
typhoon, or it's a super typhoon.
Oh,
And
okay.
this one was a super. That's just kind of in English. That's just kind of the terminology that they use. And this one was a super typhoon. It slammed into the islands um, as sort of a Category 4. I think it was like 150 miles per hour. And just as an example, like Hurricane Katrina, the hurricane that devastated New Orleans was a Category 4. So this thing was bigger than Hurricane Katrina 20 years ago.
Wow.
And when it got to the island, it kind of just stopped. And and for the if you're listening to this, if you've never been to Guam, or these islands are tiny. Um, Saipan is maybe 5 kilometers by 30 kilometers. So very very small island, not like the state of Florida or North Carolina or
Right.
Texas. There's no like continental mass. It's just like this tiny little island. And that when the eye of the storm got to the island, it kind of just stopped basically, and they dealt with typhoon force winds for about 50 hours. And so it wasn't just the wind that they dealt with, but it was the unrelenting rain. And it's the modern world that we live in today. Like I've been gone for 16 years, and when I lived there, we didn't have the types of communications connections that we have today. Like you could it was on dial-up, and if you wanted to watch a YouTube video, you had to let it load for 10 minutes, and then you could watch 60 seconds, and then it would load for
Yeah.
10 more minutes, and you watch 60 more seconds. But people were live streaming, and people were
Wow.
posting like live videos of this flooding, like up to people's chests, in some of these villages,
That's so
and
scary.
just sort of caused widespread damage. And there's not a leaf left on the island. The typhoon stripped every leaf off of every tree, and this
Holy cow.
lush, beautiful green island is now sort of brown and gray. And the other scary thing is it's been about 2 weeks, and a lot of the trees were killed, salt intrusion and whatnot, and so they've started to dry out, and there's no leaves, and so now fire is a problem,
Ooh.
because the trees are just like falling down,
Yeah.
stacked on top of each other, and they're just dead and dying and drying out. It's real. People are having a real rough go of it right now, and I get a lot of updates on Facebook and WhatsApp. People still don't have power. It's been 2 weeks. Could go several more weeks. Um, some people have no water. Some people have water for a couple hours, which is a couple hours is better than nothing. At least you get to
Right.
flush the toilet, maybe take a shower. But yeah, it's pretty rough. And I shared an article with you. Maybe you could pull that up.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
uh,
I
uh,
have it
you
right
know,
here.
this typhoon. There's kind of two things to talk about. So this typhoon, scientists have been saying for years that this stuff was going to happen, right? That storms would intensify, that they would be worse. And this is actually the third storm of this magnitude to strike these islands in about the last 10 years. And one of the really unfair things about climate change is that the people who are living with the worst of climate change are these remote rural communities, with not a lot of, and they are right in the way of all of these typhoons, and they're probably the least responsible for any of it.
Mm-hmm.
And probably also have the hardest time even getting attention. I mean, was this on the news in Toronto?
No, we did not see it. The only reason I knew is because of you.
Yeah. So that's kind of the situation. And this report that we wrote, we sort of talked about, we combined the science, but also with some of the justice issues. And the Center for American Progress has been trying to bring attention to the threats of extreme weather caused by climate change. And last year, we had a whole series of reports on flooding, extreme heat, and then also cyclones. And if you look at that report from last year, and I shared that as well, you don't need to pull it up right now, but if you look at the report and you look at the things that scientists have predicted are going to happen, and who are the people who are going to suffer the most, um, it's happening in real life in the news right now. Like if you just it's the storms are getting bigger, the storms are getting more frequent, the storms are
Mm-hmm.
happening at weird times. There's more rain happening to these storms. The communities that are feeling the worst impacts are again these remote, rural communities, and oftentimes indigenous Black people of color. Because when you think about where the typhoons are hitting, where is Typhoon Alley? Well, in the Pacific, it runs right across Micronesia, right into the Philippines, very poor countries, and then in the Caribbean, it comes, right up through the Caribbean, and then it hits, poor coastal communities in Louisiana, Florida, Texas, um, the communities that have the hardest time in responding to
Yeah.
some of these things.
Yeah. I mean, it was hard to see because you were sending me pictures of Brad, who does a live show every is it Brad,
Every
right?
day. Yeah,
Every
Brad,
day
every
he does a
day.
live show, right? And he was sending pictures of him and his family, like in their house, and then taking pictures outside, and it was scary, man. It's scary to think that, this can happen to a community that is overlooked by a powerful nation, and this is what happens every single time. And so, we see, the damage, we see like the size of the typhoons. What's been happening? What are the conversations in terms of adaptation for these islands, like, and to protect these islands from superstorms like this, or even just regular storms like this? Because, like, now they're, as you mentioned, the island's vulnerable to fires, to other, if another
Flooding,
storm comes through,
mudslides.
mudslides. Yeah. So in terms of infrastructure, have there been any improvements in that? Has there been any conversations with the government of trying to get that type of thing happening?
So the last typhoon that hit was in 2019, and it was also and it also devastated the island. And the schools were still in trailers that were provided by FEMA from the last typhoon, and those
Like, even
trailers
today?
were just today. So 7 years
Today?
later,
Wow.
the
Wow.
schools, children were still going to school in FEMA tents. And
Yeah.
those FEMA tents, again, because they're trailers, tents.
Yep.
They look like tents to me. They were destroyed because
Jesus.
they're not firm. So, you know, it's the thing with like living in a place like this is especially when you get hit with storm after, this is now the third storm, but if you hit with
Right.
storm after storm after storm, is it if it gets on the news, maybe it gets on the news for 24 hours. And I know like it was on like CNN, like for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I definitely saw it when it happened because it's the strongest storm to hit land this year. So like it was
Jeez.
at least for 5 minutes, it was newsworthy. But people are living this, for the, the first week is everybody alive? Is anybody injured? The second week is, um, there's trees that are blocking the road and we've got to get the power poles back up. Uh, Week 3 and 4 is, are the supplies here for the roof? But
Wow.
there's a version of that 6 months down the road. There's a version of that 2 months, a year down the road, a version of
Yeah.
that 5 years down the road. And they haven't even recovered from the last, when this typhoon hit. And the things that they need evolve with time. The thing that they needed before the typhoon hit was a new school,
Yeah.
and they didn't get it. But there are also, um, some of the roads washed out, so there are infrastructure needs when it comes to water management, uh, electricity and water utilities, improving and hardening those. And they were, and the people who are working on this are well-meaning people who do really good hard work.
Yeah.
And I say this not as a criticism of the people who helped the recovery for the last 5 or 6 years. They did what they could with the resources and the time that they had. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of new, that they've hit the reset button again. And many things were damaged and a lot of that is going to have to be rebuilt. And a lot of money is going to go to the islands, but it's for the worst.
Sorry, you cut off there. It was for the what? A lot of the money is going to go for the worst hit. Is that what you're
there,
saying?
there, there, there will be a lot of money coming out to the island for recovery, but it's money coming for a typhoon recovery is not the greatest thing in the world. It'd be much better to have money coming from tourism or for
Hmm.
conservation, or don't have this negative connotation attached to them.
Well, and especially, I mean, not as many people are going to go to be tourists, like for tourism, because of all
Yeah,
the
for a
damage that's
while.
been done too for a while. Yeah, so that, because right now people are in survival mode, as you mentioned. There's like, it's
Yeah.
like a timeline here, and as you, like, some of the most needed things, schools and stuff, weren't even built after what we're at 7 years ago,
6 or
six, seven
7
years ago.
years.
Yeah. So it gets to a point where you're just like, what happens next? Obviously, government has to step in. Um, I know there's been a lot of changes in the U.S. government, of last year and a half. I know FEMA's been cut, like budgets have been cut for this type of stuff. What's the next step, Angelo? Like and how can like people, this audience, how people who listen to this video and listen to this podcast get out and do something about it?
Well, there's the short term and then there's the long term. And the short term is there are some organizations out there that are helping with the relief. And I shared some of the organizations that I trust on my
Yes.
personal blog. The American Red Cross helps with this everywhere. Uh, the World Kitchen, the famous chef, he's out there feeding people.
Yeah.
They do a really good job. And then there's two local organizations that I've worked with over the years. One is the Micronesia Climate Change Alliance, and they were one of our partners with the deep sea mining. But they were also the organization that flew my friend Sheila to Glasgow so that she could introduce Barack Obama at the climate COP a couple of years ago. So that they are very plugged into the community. And then the other one is the Azuda Foundation. Yeah, my blog is Angela Villagomez. And people can send donations to those groups, but the long term problem is now is the time to talk about climate change, because this is not an isolated event. Try
The doc.
www.angel. Sometimes that happens. I don't know why. Because I'm not a coder and I don't really know how to do what.
There
There
we
we
go.
go. Well, there's the abstract for deep sea
There's
mining, but you
abstract for,
scroll
yeah.
down. Actually, I see it on the top left. Popular posts from this blog. There you go. Uh, AngelaVillagomez.com. You can scroll down there. The Azuda Foundation doesn't accept online donations, but I promise you, this is that they move cargo and goods across the region. They know how to do it.
Yeah.
Um, they're a very good organization to support. Um, but yeah, the bigger issue is this is our climate reality now. If we talk about warming waters and the warming climate, and every single year is the hottest year on record. Uh, this is getting worse, right? Like
Yeah.
I saw somebody saying another way to think about it is this year is going to be the coolest year of the next 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and these communities are going to have to deal with this kind of thing, and we are living in a climate crisis, and those are not doing enough to address climate change, and they're sure as hell not doing enough to help the people who are going to have to live with the outcomes of climate change.
Right. No doubt. I think it's I mean, unfortunately, these are the people who get hit, faster and earlier than we expect. People who, when we live here in North America, me and Canada, you in the U.S. right now, like a mainland, we see it a little bit, but the resources are easier to get to. It's easier to fix things. It's easier to construct things. When you live on an island, there's a lot of logistical needs that have to go in the first place. Not an excuse by any means, but that just it goes to some of the barriers and challenges. And then having just getting that sight of and getting for people to know, I'm sure that a lot of people in the U.S. that don't even realize that there was a super typhoon over the Mariana Islands.
Mhm.
And did it hit any other islands? Did it hit like American Samoa in that or in Guam?
It hit. So there's a country south of the Marianas called the Federated States of Micronesia,
Right.
and one of the states is called Chuuk. And the typhoon went over Chuuk, and there was loss of life. A couple of
Oh
people
wow.
died, a lot of damage. And then it went up to the Marianas, um, and then kind of hooked to the right and went off to the North Pacific. It did go over another island that has a population of one, um, and man, I'm going to share a YouTube video with you. There's a couple of like Norwegian guys went up to the island and met with him,
You're
and
kidding.
made this fun video with him. But yeah, but
Yeah.
there's this one island in the Marianas where there's one guy living on it, and talking about the modern world that we live in, it has one of his satellites above the island, and he was chatting with people with video as the typhoon was happening. There's no
Incredible.
power plant. Like it is a completely isolated island. 300. It's about 200 miles north of Saipan, 150 miles north of Saipan. Um,
Wow. And one guy lives
and
on
he
it.
just he lives kind of the way that we did in the 1800s.
Wow. But he's got access to video and like
He has a cell phone.
he has a cell
He has
phone.
access to internet.
Wow. Because of the satellites above. Incredible. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so like so for now, people can donate to these areas here. 3 ways to donate. So there's a Micronesia Climate Change Alliance, so you can donate there. Is it Azuda Foundation? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Azuda Foundation is the one, and that's the one where if you can send money to you if they don't feel like mailing a check,
yeah.
and you'll
No,
mail a check.
not on the. If you're my friend, you can, but not
Yes,
like
that's right.
family.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
And then
don't just send
so
me.
and that mail physical check to, and then we have the address here on angelovillagomez.com.
Yeah.
And you can get access to that as well. So any help would be great. I think it'll be helpful. But obviously, in a lot of these islands, not just the Mariana Islands, we need to have better infrastructure in these areas to ensure that things get rebuilt if they need to get rebuilt on time, and built for these types of storms that can be devastating, which is going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy to do. So we'll definitely be watching. It looks like Guam got hit on these too, right? With
Guam
the
got a lot of
typhoon,
rain,
got a lot of
and
rain. Okay,
they got maybe tropical storm wind. Guam is like
okay,
100 miles south of Saipan, so they were affected, devastated.
okay, okay. Yeah, so so it's a tough thing, but we'll definitely get that link out there in the show notes so that people can take a look in the description, so that people can take a look and donate to help a lot of these good folks out, so that we can help them rebuild faster
All right,
and
man.
just get access to a lot of things.
And hopefully we'll talk about something happier next week.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely will. But until next time, Angelo, thank you so much. We will be back next week, next Thursday. Hopefully my video will be better and we will have to do more things. But thank you very much, everybody. And we will talk to you there.